What if this Christmas we could look past the sparkle to discover a love that's deeper, daring, and truly transformative? A love so profound, it doesn't just touch our hearts, it reshapes our world. This season isn't just about tradition or gifts, it's about embracing a love that's selfless, sacrificial, and meant to be shared. Let's open our eyes to a whole new view, one that's filled with grace, compassion, and connection, as we see the season through the lenses of love. The Bible says that the greatest commandment is to love God and love others. Love is at the heart of life itself. It's in the brave action of a firefighter who rushes into a burning building to save someone they've never met. It's in the friend who stays on the phone all night comforting someone struggling with depression. It's in the nurse who works long, tiring shifts to care for patients in pain. It's in the neighbor who takes the time out of their day to bring groceries to an elderly person who lives home alone. That's love. When volunteers give up their weekends to build homes for those in need or pack meals for the hungry, they show love through their sacrifice. A teacher who stays in a struggling school district despite being offered better opportunities elsewhere demonstrates love through dedication. The new parent who gazes at their newborn baby for the first time experiences love in its purest form. When an elderly spouse tenderly cares for their partner whose health is declining, that's love in its most sacrificial sense. All around us, love is on display, reminding us that love is the most powerful force in life. And as we approach the Christmas season, we're reminded of the greatest act of love in history: God sending his son, Jesus, to earth. Christmas is more than just a time for gifts and gathering. It's about celebrating the ultimate expression of God's love for humanity. He came to be with us, to save us, and to show us what true selfless love looks like. In order to fully grasp God's greatest gift, I think it's important we look at a verse that we all have heard at some point in our lives. For those of you who grew up in church, it's a verse you probably memorized at such a young age. It's a verse that, in my opinion, is the essence of Christian faith. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. That is the core of the Christmas story. God so loved that he took on flesh as a baby in a manger in a small town called Bethlehem. So let's break down this love. In the Greek language, there are several words for love. What's interesting is that in the New Testament, there's a specific word the writers use when they're writing about Christian love. It's a word you may have heard before, and it's called agape. Agape love is often considered the highest form of love. It embodies selflessness, sacrifice, and unconditional care for others. This profound concept goes beyond feelings. It emphasizes action and commitment. We often use the word love in different contexts and meanings, right? I love chocolate, or I love my mother. That being said, I hope our love for chocolate and our moms are very different. Some scholars suggest that it seems that agape was almost never used in classical Greek literature. In other words, many pieces of Greek literature outside of the Bible use other words for love, but never agape. However, that word appears all over the New Testament. It's the kinds of love that Paul defines in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It's the word Jesus used when he described the greatest commandment. It's the word used in John 3:16. Agape love isn't just defined by ancient Greek lexicons. It's defined by Christ's ultimate act of compassion, commitment, and complete sacrifice. His love is the perfect example of a relentless, radical, and redemptive love. It's a love that goes beyond mere words or definitions. Christ didn't just speak about love, he embodied it, showing us through his life, death, and resurrection what true, transformative love looks like. In Christ, friends, agape becomes an active, all-encompassing love that changes everything. We often misunderstand love, reducing it to a soft emotional feeling. While emotions are a part of love, they're not the full story. Today, we say we love everything from our family to hot chocolate, but that's not the same kind of love. Love, as described in the Bible, is more than a feeling. It's a commitment. We often speak of falling in love or falling out of love, but real love isn't passive. It's an intentional choice. Agape love, modeled by Jesus, is about choosing to prioritize the well-being of others, even our enemies, without expecting anything in return. It's sacrificial and selfless. So let's break it down. If you claim to follow Jesus, love isn't something that comes and goes based on fleeting feelings. Instead, agape love, which Jesus models for us, is an intentional act. It's a choice. When Christ was asked about the greatest commandment, his response was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This isn't just a sentimental emotion, but a commitment, a conscious decision made at the very core of our being. We don't simply fall into love with God. We make a choice to love him actively and wholeheartedly. Love, as Jesus defines it, extends far beyond feelings. For instance, in Mark chapter 12, verse 30, when Jesus commands us to love your enemies, he's not implying that we should instantly feel positive emotions to those who have wronged us. I mean, that's hard. Realistically, those feelings may never come. Yet Jesus insists that love is a choice. It's a deliberate act of the will. Even when we don't feel like loving our enemies, we can still choose to treat them with kindness, with patience, and with mercy. This is the very essence of agape love. It's not driven by what we can feel, but a higher calling to live as Jesus did, reflecting God's selfless love for us. In this way, agape love is not reactive, it's proactive. We don't wait for loving feelings to come upon us. Instead, we commit to love even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable or undeserved. It's a love that transcends feelings because it's grounded in action, it's grounded in sacrifice, and it's grounded in a deep commitment to others. This is the kind of love that builds bridges. It's the kind of love that heals wounds and brings people closer to God. It requires us to unite emotion and reason, to take responsibility for our choices, and to love others as Jesus has loved us, consistently, unconditionally, and without expecting anything in return. Agape love doesn't change with moods or circumstances. It remains firm because it's rooted in the choice to love, not in the way we feel in any given moment. This is a love that perseveres, that endures, and that shapes the world around us. It's the love that Christ demonstrated on the cross, choosing to sacrifice himself for our sake, even though we didn't deserve it. It's the love that keeps families together. It's the love that builds communities and draws us closer to the heart of God. Ultimately, friends, agape love is the most profound love. It's the most profound reflection of God's character. And when we choose to love as he loves, we're participating in his plan for our lives. So, when Jesus calls us to love God and to love others, it's not just a suggestion. It's a command to actively choose love in every aspect of our lives. Whether we're loving God, our neighbors, or even our enemies, we're making a conscious decision to reflect the love that God has first shown us. This kind of love is what truly sets us apart as followers of Christ. It's a love that doesn't just happen. It's a love we live out each day throughout our actions, throughout our choices, and our commitment to serve others as Jesus did. When Jesus was asked about the greatest commandment, he didn't just stop at love God, but immediately followed it with, and love your neighbor. You see, these two commandments aren't separate. They're actually deeply intertwined. So which one is more important? Loving God or loving your neighbor? The truth is, they're inseparable. Jesus isn't offering two competing commands. He's giving us a complete blueprint for how to live a life of love. When we love God fully, with all our heart, soul, and mind, it naturally leads to loving others. Our love for others is a reflection of our love for God. Agape love, the selfless and sacrificial love that Jesus teaches, isn't just about emotions or feelings. It's about seeing the image of God in every person around us. Think of it like this. You've been on a plane, right? If you've ever flown on a plane, the safety instructions always remind us to put on our own oxygen mask before helping others. You ever wonder why? Because you can't help anyone if you're not breathing properly yourself. It's as simple as that. And it's the same thing with love. When we're filled with love for God, we become equipped to love others more effectively. Our relationship with God becomes the oxygen that enables us to show genuine love to others. And if we neglect our love for God, we'll find it much harder to love others authentically. Loving God first transforms how we see people. If we truly love God, we start seeing them the way He sees them, not through lenses of judgment, frustration, or indifference, but through lenses of love, compassion, and grace. Just like putting on a pair of glasses brings the world into a clearer focus, loving God helps us see people for who they really are, beloved children of God. Only when we're rooted in God's love can we fully extend that love to others, reflecting His character and heart for humanity. So, loving God and loving our neighbor are not two separate actions, but one seamless expression of agape love. When we love God fully, we naturally love others as He loves us. And in doing so, we live out the full meaning of His greatest commandment. Dallas Willard beautifully captures this aspect of love. He says, every contact with another human being should be one of goodwill and respect, with a readiness to acknowledge, make way for, or assist the other in suitable ways. What I appreciate most about Willard's definition is how grounded it is. He's reminding us that agape love shows up in the ordinary moments of life. Living with this love means being aware, or being consistently aware, of how our actions impact those around us, both in big and small ways. We should be thinking of others as we go about our daily routines. Let me share a simple example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop, and the table next to you is littered with empty cups, crumpled napkins, and crumbs. As you get up to leave, you glance over and think, well, someone's paid to clean that up. I mean, it'd be easy to just walk out letting the mess be someone else's problem. But then a thought hits you. What if one small action can make someone else's job a little bit easier? This moment isn't about convenience. It's about choosing to be considerate and selfless. It sounds cliche, but if Jesus were there, he'd probably tidy it up, not for the recognition, but as an act of love and respect for others. Agape love doesn't look away when there's a chance to lend a helping hand, even in the smallest unseen ways. Opportunities to be selfless are everywhere, aren't they? It's giving up the best parking spot, letting someone merge ahead of you in traffic even though they cut you off, have mercy. Or hanging clothes back where they belong in the store. Love for God is so often expressed through seeking the well-being of others, even in these small acts of consideration. By doing these small, thoughtful actions, we live out agape love, a love that sees the value in serving others without expecting anything in return. It's not about grand gestures. It's about making choices in every interaction to embody Christ's love. Agape love will often come at a cost. Whether it's time, energy, or resources, true love, love that reflects Christ, isn't about getting something in return. Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 34, if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. See, Christ exemplified love by healing lepers, by helping the blind, feeding the hungry, and even standing up for those society had cast aside. None of these people could return the favor to him, but that didn't stop him. See, it's easy for us to become stingy with our love. We set conditions, keeping a mental scoreboard. If you do this for me, I'll love you. It happens in marriages, it happens in families, it happens with friends, and it happens at work. But agape love isn't transactional, it's transformational. I was cleaning out my closet, ready to, donate some clothes to Salvation Army, thinking I was being generous. But I realized that I was only giving away the old, worn out stuff. And it hit me. I was keeping the best for myself and giving the leftovers to others. I mean, we do this not only with clothes, but with our time, our money, our energy. We hold back the best and give what's convenient. But God doesn't love us with leftovers. He gave us his best, his son. Jesus gave up his throne to be born in a manger, eventually giving up his very life for us. That's sacrificial love. God so loved the world that he didn't just give us his second best, he gave us the very best. Agape love calls you and I to do the same, not just for those we find easy to love, but even our enemies. Jesus taught us to use this kind of radical love, loving even those who sought to harm him. When he was arrested, beaten, and crucified, he could have called down angels in his defense in the snap of a finger, but he didn't. He chose love over retaliation. He even prayed for his enemies. Can you imagine that? He said, Father, forgive them. This is the ultimate expression of agape love, choosing to seek the well-being of others, even when they don't deserve it. Guys, if we're going to follow Christ's example, we need to stop placing conditions on our love. It's not about what others can give us in return. Love as Christ showed us, is selfless, it's sacrificial, and it's steadfast. As we reflect on the Christmas season, it's impossible to miss that this time of year is a celebration of love. When we think of Christmas, we often imagine the nativity scenes, right? The gifts, the family gatherings, the carols. But at the heart of it all is a deeper truth. Christmas is the ultimate expression of God's love in action. God's love isn't passive. It's not just a sentiment or a warm feeling. It's active, it's purposeful, and it's sacrificial. The Christmas story itself is love in motion. God, in his infinite love, didn't remain distant from humanity's struggles and sin. He stepped into it. He chose to be with us in the most tangible, personal way possible by sending his son, Jesus, to live among us. The King of Kings was not born in a palace, but in a stable. He wasn't wrapped in royal robes, but in swaddling cloths. And his first bed wasn't a cradle of gold, but a feeding place for animals. This isn't the picture of love as the world defines it, with grandeur and pomp. It's the picture of agape love. Love that humbles itself. Love that sacrifices. Love that meets us where we are, no matter how lowly. And this act of love wasn't just for a select few. It was for the whole world. It doesn't say for God so loved Toronto. It doesn't say for God so loved North America. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. That world includes each and every one of us. No one is left out of God's love. Just as the angels declared to the shepherds on that first Christmas night, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Jesus didn't come for a privileged few. He came for everyone, from the shepherds in the fields to the wise men in the east. In this season, we celebrate that divine love, but we're also called to reflect it. Jesus said, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. This isn't just a holiday sentiment. It's a lifelong calling. Christmas is not just a story we hear once a year. It's a lifestyle we're invited to live every single day. To love as Christ loved means to live with an open heart, to serve without expecting anything in return, and to give not just gifts, but ourselves. Look around you this Christmas. Who needs the gift of your love? It might be a family member, a neighbor, a stranger, or even someone you find difficult to love. Agape love is not reserved for the people who are easy to love. It's for everyone, even those who challenge us, even those who hurt us. Jesus, who was born in that humble manger, would later demonstrate the greatest act of love on the cross, dying for us while we were yet sinners. That's the love that we're called to embody. So this Christmas, let's go beyond the presents. Let's go beyond the meals and the celebrations. Let's embrace the true meaning of Christmas by living out the love that was born in Bethlehem. Let's offer love to those around us, not just in word, but in action. Let's be agents of the same love that changed the world over 2,000 years ago. And as we do, let's remember that we're not just celebrating a historical event. We are celebrating the living, active love of God that continues to transform our lives and the lives of those around us. As we reflect on the love that entered the world that first Christmas, it's important to remember that this love didn't end with the birth of Jesus. It's a love that continues to invite us into action. The manger scene is just the beginning of a much larger story, a story that challenges us to reflect Christ's love in everything we do. Jesus' birth calls us to live with the same selfless love that he demonstrated, not just during Christmas, but every day of our lives. Consider the many ways this love can manifest. A word of encouragement to someone feeling down, a kind gesture to a stranger, or a simple act of forgiveness that we've been holding back. In all these ways, we can mirror the love that was so freely given to us. Jesus didn't hold back his love. Neither should you and I. His love broke down barriers. His love reached across divides. His love healed broken hearts. That's the kind of love we're called to embody. A love that's bigger than the Christmas season. A love that stretches beyond the gifts under the tree. This Christmas, may we not only receive the love of God, but also be conduits of that love to a world that desperately needs it. I want to invite us to share the same love that came down in Bethlehem, knowing that when we do, we are fulfilling the very essence of the Christmas story. Merry Christmas, and may the love of Christ fill your hearts, your homes, and your world today and every day. I hope you were inspired by today's program. I'm so grateful that you joined us on Lenses of Love. If today's episode touched your heart, I want you to consider becoming an agent of hope. Your donation not only keeps Lenses of Love on the air, but it also supports other programs designed to uplift and guide viewers on their spiritual journeys. From production to set design, any gift that you can give helps with every detail that goes into creating meaningful content. You can donate by visiting agentsofhope.ca, where you'll find secure options for debit, credit, Google Pay, and Apple Pay. And if you prefer offline methods, send an e-transfer directly from your bank account to agentsofhope@hopetv.ca. That's agentsofhope@hopetv.ca. You can always mail a check to us as well at Hope Channel Canada, 1148 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H1H8. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 1-855-4-HOPE-TV. That's 1-855-446-7388.